Hi, everyone. Welcome to the course on creating the best startup investor pitch deck, where we'll be going over not only how to create the best pitch deck, but also how to present to angels and venture capitalists. To start off, we're going to do an introduction to the instructor and the course. So who am I? That's me. I'm Sky. I'm both an angel investor as well as a founder of One Match Ventures, a seed fund focused on technology companies. I'm also a venture capitalist at Centripetal Capital Partners, which is a multi-stage venture capital fund investing in very early stage companies, growth stage companies, and occasionally doing acquisitions across a pretty broad range of industries. I'm also an advisor to a number of startups. Some interesting factoids about myself. I gave the first TED Talk on venture capital called Innovating the Financing of Innovation. I'll provide a link off to the right to watch that video if you're interested. I'm also the founder of the Missing Middle Initiative, launched at the World Economic Forum, focused on creating funds between $10 and $75 million. That size of fund is able to make investments typically between $100,000 and $2 or $3 million for each portfolio company, which really is the core size of capital that most entrepreneurs need to get started. And that really is a missing source of capital that most entrepreneurs need. And there's not that many funds that actually provide that size of capital. I'm also a frequent speaker on lots of topics on entrepreneurship and venture capital at places such as Harvard Business School, NYU, Wharton, the New York Venture Summit, the United Nations, and the New York Stock Exchange. And I've been doing this for about 5 years across most of these venues, speaking there to the classes and for various events. So why should you listen to me? Well, first, I've reviewed thousands of startup pitches over the past 5 years. And I've seen them, again, across a pretty wide range of industries, as also across a wide range of stages that the companies are at, from very early stage startup to growth stage. But also, probably more importantly, is I'm an actual investor. There's a lot of pitch coaches out there that are really consultants. And they give a lot of advice to entrepreneurs, and they get paid lots of money. Unfortunately, they are typically people that have never actually put money in startups. So I think what will be interesting about this course is you'll be getting a perspective from a real investor over the past 5 years, giving you a very honest opinion on how we truly review companies when we're thinking about investing in them, and also what happens after we're investing in them, which is actually when everything really starts. So I know what it takes to get noticed, both as an angel investor and a VC. I know what's going to spike my interest, and I also know how to get you funded. I've been successful at not only being an investor, but also at raising capital for a number of startups that I've been involved with over the years. I'm also a serial entrepreneur for a number of tech companies. So a little quick preview of the course itself. First, we're going to be going over the best investor pitch deck outline. In this presentation, we're going to provide a slide template of which topics to cover. For this, in the next video, I'm going to be providing a link to a template that you can download, and you can use that to go through the course as we're doing it. And it really includes every slide that you should probably have in a presentation and what you should include on it. And that template works really well for you to fill in the presentation as we go. Through the course, I'll also be giving lots of slide examples from other pitch decks, so you can see how other entrepreneurs have presented certain slides to give you some ideas. I'm also going to provide some deck variations. There is no such thing as the right number of slides. Some people say that it always has to be 10 slides, but that's really not true. If you've ever started a company prior, you're familiar with all of the startup pitch events where they will ask you to present your company in 5 slides, 3 slides, 7 slides, 13 slides. So you really actually have to have a variation of your slide deck. We're going to go over all of the core deck variations from a 5, 10, and a 15 and 30 slide deck, and what you should be including in each of those, depending on the presentation you're giving. Secondly, I'm going to be giving a lot of personal stories and advice as we go, and really on a slide-by-slide basis, where I've seen entrepreneurs get tripped up and be embarrassed when they weren't able to answer certain questions on those slides, knowing what are the exact right things you really want to have on those slides to get investors' attention, and some pretty funny stories that I'll share along the way. I won't give any names of the startups, but some things hopefully you can either replicate or not replicate when you're actually doing the presentation. Third, I'm going to go over some pitch deck guidelines. And by pitch deck guidelines, I really mean on the formatting side and frameworks, because formatting making sure the presentation overall looks good is important beyond just the content itself, as well as frameworks. What are some great examples of how you can physically display parts of your company to really make it easy with mental frameworks that people can take away and remember easily? And then next, really going over before the pitch. There's a lot of the things that you need to think about in preparing before you even give the pitch itself. So I'm going to go over a lot of the high-level things that you should be looking out for before you pitch. And lastly, on how to pitch, going over presentation skills, both verbally and how you're presenting your body when you're presenting. But there are a lot of secrets that I think I'll be sharing. I've seen some really great entrepreneurs present over the past few years, and I've taken note over some of the things that they did that really made a difference on their style of presenting. And the last part of that is going over some common investor questions and what I would consider being some of the best answers to some of the tough questions that investors give. So that's a quick overview of the course. For the content of the course, it's aggregated wisdom across three core areas. The first is personal wisdom over the past 5 years of doing venture capital, plus the years of being an entrepreneur. So I'll be sharing a lot of advice and stories. Secondly, I'll be sharing what I did to create this course. I put together an aggregated wisdom of some of the brightest and smartest people in the early stage VC world, both from entrepreneurs and investors. Here's an example of just some of the sources which I shared this course with them to get their feedback. Places like 500 Startups, one of the top accelerators, some of the top venture funds like Canaan Partners, other angels like David Rose, who's like one of the grandfathers of angel investing in New York, Harvard Business School angels, New York angels. So a lot of aggregated wisdom where I got their input for working on this course beyond my own personal wisdom. And lastly, resources. So if you Google online for pitch decks, you'll find there's a whole bunch of resources out there, and it takes a lot of time for entrepreneurs to find them and find the right ones and do their own sifting through, filtering through what is the best stuff out of those. So I took all of those resources and I tried to also pull those in to certain parts of this course to make a one-stop shop for learning about how to create the best pitch deck. And that's really, I think, what I've created, the best startup pitch deck. The deck that I've created, it's been viewed and downloaded over 60,000 times, and certain places like NYC Techstars are now using this template for all of their startups going through their accelerator platform. So it's great to see the acceptance of this course as well. Lastly, who should take this course? Really, there's two main buckets, I think. The first one is first-time entrepreneurs, people that have been thinking about their concept for a long time, and they're really excited now to really make the break into building their company, creating that pitch deck, and starting to present to investors. So first-time entrepreneurs, there's a lot of catch-up work to do of learning what to do and what not to do. So I think this course works as a really quick course to get all the things that you'll need. But I think it's also really good for serial entrepreneurs as well. Serial entrepreneurs probably know best that they don't know nearly enough, and the importance of looking for resources. And you can always get better at what you're doing. And that's probably one of the best philosophies of all entrepreneurs, is that you can only get better from what you're doing. And the second and third company you do, you have much higher likelihood of success. And that's usually because you've learned to go out and find great resources like this to help your startup. So anyways, that's the quick overview of the course. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Look forward to seeing you. Cheers.